6-3 PV.
Yeah, I'm just admitting more people. Just
Okay.
like going live. I'm also recording this. Okay, wonderful. Okay. Admitting all. Perfect. Yeah, so welcome to the other session, yet another session on Thalam Talks. Hi, sorry, there's some voice overlap from the YouTube. So welcome to Thalam Talks, yet another session with a lot of interesting talks we had in the last 45 days, where we showcased over 45 photographers in 30 sessions. We had a lot of interesting stories to hear from various photographers from different genres, right? Today we have with us Ramya Reddy, who has documented a lot of interesting images, series of stories, interviews she did with people and the landscapes of Nilgiris. So what we'll do is, before we get into introducing Ramya Reddy, generally what we do is we play a small video about Thalam Talks. I'll quickly share that video and then we'll start introducing Ramya. Yeah, so this is what we did. So now to introduce Ramya. So Ramya has been a professional photographer for over 12 years now, drawn especially to blurring lines between physical and imaginary worlds. Her alma mater includes Parsons School of Design, Life and Light Academy, Ooty, Santa Fe workshops. So she has a lot of her fine art has been exhibited in India and the US. First time, in fact, one of our friends, Madhu Nadraj's event, I met her. It was very interesting to see her collaboration with Madhu also. She has been collaborated with a lot of boutique lifestyle brands, including Taj Hotels, Forest Essentials, Ganjam, and several other hotels and spas. Her work has been published, appeared in Condé Nast Traveler, Elle, Vogue, and part of many coffee table books. She has been a writer, aspiring writer. Ramya has recently published a book called Soul of the Nilgiris. It's complete journey through the mountains, and she spent a lot of time, over 9 years, uh, having oral narratives, conversations, writings, and close to 300 photographs in it. It's a self-published book, and the spine of the book is very interesting. If you see the poster that we used for promotions, that has the hand embroidery done by these Toda women. They spent over close to 2 years to make the spine for 2000 books, which is published by Ramya. Today's session will be completely covering her experience of going through the process of documenting and making this book, right? So we welcome you to the session, Ramya. Happy to have you, and thanks for accepting this invite to do this session for us at Thalam Talks. Over to you, Ramya.
Thank you. Thank you, PV. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Ramya. So, can you hear me?
Yes, your voice is a little feeble,
Is
but
it?
I'll just see if there's any other audio, some other noise. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Is it okay? Am I sort
Yeah,
of
this is fine now. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah.
So thank you for having me, PV Roman Andri. It's so nice to be here. Uh, I hope to bring in a healthy Tamil dialogue, but my Tamil is more flowing on the field. So this has been engineered more. This presentation, this talk has been engineered more in English. So I will just go with the flow.
Don't bother, Ramya, because we have a lot of other non-Tamil participants today. The whole session can be in English, not to worry.
Okay, super. So again, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I want to begin this session with a little poem. This was written for the book by a dear friend who is happens to be a Nilgiris-based writer from the Badga community, one of the indigenous communities in Nilgiris. அவங்க பேர் வந்து Mrs. Indumala, the poet laureate. So she wrote in the book இது எழுதினாங்க. So about the mountains, மலை பத்தி. Can you hear me, PV? You just froze.
We could hear you. We could hear you. Go ahead.
Because I'm just wondering if it's my connection, if I should do something about it.
No, it is fine. We could hear you. It's perfect.
So this is the excerpt from that poem. Beautiful blue mountains, may your peaks rise proudly into the sky for all time to come. May Mother Earth always nurture you. May your sholas be verdant. May your rivers flow full. May your well springs of wisdom never run dry. May your ancestors protect you. May your children live in harmony. May your winds weave a canopy of blessings above you. Indumala, the poet I was just talking about. So this has a lot to do with my love for the Nilgiris also. My project is a love project. It began out of love for the mountains. What do you say? மலைகளோட ஆழமான ஒரு, as I'd like to say, a very deep, profound love that I always had with the mountains, with the Nilgiris, almost like a past life connection. It evolved when I was there studying photography in Lovedale at the Light and Life Academy, and it took a form. I started exploring the landscape and started seeing the place through the eyes of the local people. Started seeing the landscape through the eyes of the local people, and so it went from there. So I think Nilgiris needs no introduction. It's the Blue Mountain Range located in the Western Ghats of Tamil Nadu, shoots east to west, running perpendicular to the main body of the Ghats towards the Deccan Plateau. All the principal rivers of the southern India are born in the endemic Shola forests here. UNESCO constituted the Nilgiris ecosystem and the surrounding environments as the Nilgiris Biosphere Reserve. Among these crashing rapids and beautiful quiet pools thrives an exceptional density of endemic species, endangered species of flora and fauna. The Kurunji, a type of, I'm sure all of you have heard of this, Kurunji, the purple Kurunji flower. So it blossoms once in 12 years in the upper slopes of the Nilgiris. So obviously I was enchanted by this place. I thought like any up and coming photographer, I was uh, so taken by it that I wanted to create a photo series, landscapes and people, and I didn't know what I would do with it, but I wanted to make this photo series. எப்படி என்னன்னு தெரியல. Just wanted to make this. So I started, and when when this when I started, when I was well into the project, I think a few years later, once I came to Light in Life and everything, when I started to meet the Palankudi Makkal, the indigenous people, Adivasis as you call them, the interactions began. That's when the trajectory began to change. I started to look at this project beyond the photo series. How should you tell the story? What does this mean to me, and what does this mean to them? So what should I do? So for me, this was about, it's at some point it became about the people. This was theirs, this was their land, and I wanted to show their culture, their truths, and through their experiences of the Nilgiris. And they were tied to nature so deeply, and to each other in a symbiosis. And up until, I don't know, some decades ago, 40, 50 decades ago, they still thrived in a system of barter, which means there was no coinage, there was no money. So they exchanged goods and services amongst themselves. So such was the region. So these old ways, right? They're not like simply cultural constructs.
Ramya,
Yeah,
you haven't started sharing screen, right?
I have been sharing screen.
Well, we're not seeing anything. That's why I was thinking.
I'm so sorry.
I just go back to, I was thinking you're introducing. Just go to the share screen.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. You can show those images, and then obviously we heard you.
Okay.
Yeah, click on the share screen, and then.
I'm so sorry about that.
I was thinking what you're typing. Tadak tadak.
I'm
Okay.
sorry about that. And
yeah, put in the full screen. Yeah.
You'll have to do this all over again?
No, you don't have to speak, but you can show these pictures at least.
Yeah.
Till
So,
the time you spoke.
so sorry about that, guys. So I was just here. I was just taking you all through the map of the Nilgiris, giving you some bearings about the place. I think you heard all that, right, PV?
We heard you.
Yeah, and then this poem, and this is one of those pictures that accompanied the poem and overlooks all the southwestern ranges of the Nilgiris, and one of the sacred Toda landscapes, this one. Then this is where I was talking about my enchantment towards the reason and love, and how it all began, and my being enraptured with the region, and how the trajectory changed after meeting the indigenous people of the land. So, and now I was just talking with this slide about the old ways. They were not just cultural constructs. They served a very important purpose, and this I learned along the way. And the reason I'm talking about all this is because this is what shaped the vision. This is what shaped the way the project took shape. And the media, even the medium, it went beyond the photos, right? It went beyond the photos. It had an element of design. So all of these things shaped it. So coming back to the old ways. So these old ways enable man to live in harmony with nature. And through Nilgiris, I could see that we were losing sight of all this, the way living in a certain harmony with nature. We were losing sight of nuances of these cultures in connection to a whole ecosystem, and of the vital ways of connecting with nature, and through that ourselves. And the objective became this, right? That I wanted to tell stories that had resonance to how to the world we are living in, to something more universal. And I felt like I needed to capture whatever I could. And the way things are right now, I can, in the times we are living in these dire times, I can see how relevant all this is to be to reach out to this resonance of these old ways and this ancient wisdom and indigenous wisdom and so on. So another thing is that Nilgiris பத்தி ரொம்ப எழுதிருக்காங்க, ரொம்ப பேசிருக்காங்க. So there are lots out there about said and done about this region. It's one of the most documented places on earth. Apparently, one 6 most documented, or something like that. So as far as I was concerned, I was aware of this and sifting through so much anthropological work, and I was very intimidated by all this also. But as like I described earlier, as I interacted with people and furthered my cause, for me this became about telling the stories of the Adivasis, of the people of the land, in the way I saw them, in the way I saw the place, through their worldviews, through their worldviews, and presenting their landscape in the way they saw it. This became important. So it was not anthropology to me. So it had to cut through all that. And I also had the good fortune to have met people doing work of importance in the Nilgiris, from non-profits like Keystone Foundation, grassroots organizations like Keystone Foundation, and also met quite a few scholars and anthropologists and so on. So I had the guiding hand of all these people and spaces. So, but these people in turn introduced me to different communities, Periyargal from all the different communities. And the thing is, with projects like this, most important thing is earning trust. So I don't know if I said this in the beginning, but this is I said it's a love project, but it happened over a decade. So of course it was a slow project, but having said that, along the way I learned how important it was to take time with building trust and building relationships and all. Of course, I had the time and the luxury to do this at that point in time, but still, so building trust really took the time. Sometimes the elders, they would ask me, so what, you'll take what you want and you leave, like people have done before. So many times I would go for shoots and they'd be so hesitant to take me along with them on, if they were going even for a walk, or if they were going into the forest, or to even for the simplest thing, so it took a long time. So at that point, this happened so many times. Then at that point, somewhere along the way, I knew, even as this trajectory was changing, I knew, okay, this project is not about me. This is about the community. This is about this region. It's like I'm the one taking all this. So now it is give back time. So this is about them. So that's why it is Soul of the Nilgiris for me. So and so that's how all these explorations began, and started to work through the landscape more deeply after passing out of Light and Life and everything. Kept coming back. It also helped that my partner is a mountain lover, and so we had many adventures here. And we explored the mountains with my Adivasi companions, Kurumbas, Soras, people from all the communities. And almost every time we hiked around the forests, around the sholas, the endemic forests of the place, one of them would just invariably launch into a folk tale, or they would point at a piece of the earth or a tree, or show me a cloud in the sky and tell me a folk tale. I would think that, okay, it's another fairy tale coming up. But gradually, I started to understand that these were stories of their communities. These were stories of the origin, of Genesis. And they were as real and layered to them as the bed of leaves that I was walking on as I was trekking with them, or the peaks that we were scaling. So it's like this, right? When you personify a big tree, an old tree, as a great grandfather, you're never going to bring an axe to it. You're never going to chop it off. So these, such is the power of these folk tales and um, these belief systems, that they um, they evoke an urge to protect such uh, ecosystems, and something so personable as a forest. Not only did they did that, but they also created humbling mystique about these ecosystems and forests. Um, so, it's like, they all, I've written this in my book in these lines. Um, they all seem to say, in these millennia old mountains, a human was just an infant. So, from being fairy tales, my perspective on folklore and folk tales and mythology became of immense, uh, one of immense inspiration to this project. So, yeah. And to all of us city dwellers, these seem like fantasies and silly superstitions, but we must account for this, that the role of human imagination in everything we have today, from currency to the disembodied idea of rationality, to the idea of us, man being supreme being on earth, moving away from that, all of that, in the world of Adivasis, the Kurumbas, the Todas, the Irulas, the forest and these parts, its parts, were not different from their own sons and mothers. That's why all of this became important. And the reason I'm taking you through all this is this project was so informed by all of this. So it was not just a series, it was inspired and informed by wisdom, by folklore, by tradition, by the land, and so on. So I'll quickly take you all through the chapters, the different chapters of the piece. So this is one of my, this lady, Mutsin, she's a Toda elder. So she was இவங்க எனக்கு ஒரு அம்மா மாதிரி இருந்தாங்க. Nurtured me, and um, mm, she showed me she took me around to so many of the Toda sites and her ancestral village, her so many of the ancestral temples, and so I explored a lot of the Toda land with her. Along the way, learning, drawing from the wellspring of her wisdom. She's no more. She passed on last year. Exactly 1 year after my book was released, and the year before, exactly actually 7th October, she passed on in 2019. 2018, she saw the book on the 6th October, and 3 months before that, she had told me she was starting to get ill. She said, I'm not going anywhere without seeing your book. This is my book too. So she held on. In any case, coming back to Muksin. So I developed this really, really close bond with her. And like I said, white haired, wise, funny, 70 when I met her. So she took me around to many of these ancestral villages, as I just said. And one of them was this a place of great sanctity. It's called Noon, the migratory hamlet of her clan. So every Thoda clan has their respective family ancestral clan, migratory hamlets. They would migrate in the uh, summer seasons to parts of the to the areas which had more fodder of grasses for their buffaloes. So the Todas are pastoral people and they worship the buffalo, one of the most ancient indigenous communities of the Nilgiris. So Newell, which was this far removed migratory hamlet, far, far from the reaches of civilization. And in fact, Mutsin's family followed this migratory hamlet, migratory lifestyle until a few decades ago, and then they, as one of uh, uh, the one of the things we're doing with the proceeds from Soul of the Nilgiris is to also help them recover some parts of this village, rebuild a couple of these thatched huts, so they can revive this lifestyle. They can somehow bring it back into their fold. They have reconstructed one, by the way. So they go there, typically they go there between the dry seasons, which is March and May, as I was just saying, and families would migrate to market regions in southwestern areas where the grass was still green because of the precipitation of the mist rising from the cliffs nearby, and vacated before the monsoons. So visiting Newell was like a really defining experience for me in understanding not just the Toda culture, but these uh, old indigenous ways of living and uh, the importance of it and the so on in the way we were living. So visiting Newell with her family, as I said, affirmed the divine in the land as Toda saw it to me. There's one of those old trees at Newell. This is about 400-year-old grandfather tree, as they call it. A rhododendron, one of the sacred trees, very sacred tree to the Toda people. It's called Pehershk in Toda. My Toda is not good. There's only one other person, anthropologist Dr. Tarun Chabra, who can speak the Toda language. Yeah, it's not an easy language to follow or to understand, but I know some words. So rhododendron is called Pehershk. So often when I visited Mutsin at her hamlet, she'd be seated under a big tree or outside her home at the porch, so sewing nature-inspired motifs onto the cotton fabric, creating these Toda-inspired shawls, embroidering the Toda-inspired motifs onto the fabric, creating the shawls and the like. There was once she was sewing this really intricate ornate shawl. They call the shawl the putkuri, or the cloak, traditional Toda cloak. It's called the putkuri. And asked her about it, and she draped it around, and she told me with a big smile, she just drapes it around me casually. I don't know if that picture here. So she just drapes the shawl around me, and she says it is her most ornate shawl because it's her funerary cloak, and it has got to be beautiful. That's it. So very poignant. And it was also Mutsen who inspired the spine for the book. She brought in a group of her nieces and friends, and we built a little group of women, and And it became, I mean, we had many groups after that, but she brought the key people in together to, you know, spearhead this project. And as you can see there, it's her niece holding the, you know, while we were working on the prototype and trying out different things and measure, you know, working with the dummy of the book. This was another very interesting long process in making of the book. So, quick peek into how they embroider. They have to count the threads. So this happened over many iterations. Nilgiris to different hamlets in the Nilgiris, to Bangalore, to Hyderabad, where my printers were located, to London, where my graphic design was located. So it happened over 4 or 5 iterations. So it was a long project. At some point, people, I mean, I was told that there was a joke going around the Nilgiris that, you know, it's hard to get hold of any Toda women Toda ladies to do any work because they were busy embroidering something for this book. So yeah, through the course of this project, about 50 Toda women artisans were employed to create the spines for this book. So in June of 2015, I got a call from Subramani from the Alukurumba community. So they're the hunter-gatherers, honey collectors. So I asked, I had told Subramani, if I get an opportunity like this, to please call me. Again, trust was an issue. He took 2 months to call me. He did. So he called me and he had told me that, you know, when he calls me, I should just be prepared for it. But I didn't expect it to be like this. So he just said, you have to come tomorrow. So I was not prepared. I didn't have anything. I didn't, nobody was there to go, and I had to just figure out all the logistics and everything. In any case, I somehow figured it out and landed up in Kotagiri the next day. A very dear friend of mine volunteered to come with me. He was recovering from a heart surgery himself, but yeah, he stepped in and we made it in time. So we reached Vellarakombai, which is where this honey expedition, honey collection was going to happen. It was, I think, exactly 5 years to date, 2000, yeah, about 5 years to date, around this time actually. So we headed out there and we made it. It was a 7-hour-long hike to get to the base of the cliffs of Vellarakombai, and the men would be scaling those cliffs to retrieve the honey from the escarpments. So, and they would, you know, scale them and be suspended from impossible heights, from those ladders made from tree vines to retrieve this very precious malaitane, the cliff honey. So initially the plan was for me to just stay put at the base of one of those cliffs and just take some pictures and, you know, be done with it. But then Subramani insists I go with him and then said, "Neenga pannidalam, you should come. நீங்க வந்தா நீங்க தான் first பொம்பளை இந்த trek பண்றது." So that was it. I was kind of sold on that. And no, not really. I'm sure, I think there were 2 other women had gone there before me, but I wanted to do it nonetheless. It was very tempting after seeing all this from a distance. So I went with him and with the leader Ponnan. We had to hack our way through the top though. Until here we had a clear path, but then beyond that we had to hack our way and cut through the grasses and bamboos and everything, and hunker down through the caves and everything. At one point, we get to some, you know, a cave-like space, and they're just hunkering down and moving. And Subramani and Punnan just start burning. I mean, have these bundles with, this branches and sticks and everything. They're smokers, which they were going to use as used to smoke away the bees and so on. So they start lighting one of these bundles and smokers. And I asked them why, and they just casually said that we should just be ready for bears. We could just be expecting one at the turn. So they said it really coolly, and many similar uh, things like this happened along the way. They casually brush off something, some encounter, and we finally emerge into this commotion of smoke and bee haze. So what has been playing on repeat here, I hope it's not been bugging you, is my bad iPhone video that's showing bees, the Apis dorsata, the rock bee, uh, flitting angrily there. A swarm of bees flitting angrily and hitting my lens mm, while I'm standing there. This was after I got got into this haze. But before that, when we went into this commotion, I didn't tell you what happened. When I just saw this, as soon as we emerged there, I froze. I refused to move. And by which time I had lost Subramani and Ponan. I didn't know where anybody was because it was smoke, it was bees, it was my camera. And I didn't know what to do. I was pretty sure I was going to be stung. So, and as you can see there, the size of the bees of these bees are like the size of grapes. And then I hear Subramani's voice rise over. Um, I could hear it through all this commotion, and he said, "Just cross, just trust the bees and just cross." He said it very casually, nothing sacred and nothing like that. He just said, "Just trust and just move, come." And I just did. I didn't have any other choice, and then just come out unscathed. So that video that's on repeat is just to give you an idea of how much was going on, commotion, these guys suspended there and bees hitting my camera. But I was unscathed, and after that, um, uh, it's just sort of blended, um, taking all the marbles unfolding in front of you. So the Kurumba's sense of invincibility about the bees comes from a remarkable confidence in their coexistence. That bees will not harm them because they take great care to see that the bees are not harmed. And they don't want to provoke the bees because it was, after all, the bees that died after the stinging. So that painting, முன்னாடி அந்த painting பார்த்தீங்களா? That Kurumba painting of the honey collection. This is Krishna, Subramani's brother, who created it with these colors, these pigments drawn from the raw materials from the forest that he hand grinds and makes. So this is the story of Janaki Amma. A few months later, I went back to Vellarkommai to meet Subramani's aunt, and Subramani and Krishna's aunt, Janaki Amma. She's a healer and midwife of repute. This time, unlike last time, I had company and I had my friend and I had some people that Subramani had sent along. But this time I had nobody and I decided to trek alone and get to Janaki Amma's house. And my sense of direction is not that great, but I need it. So it was such a relief getting to her house and seeing her, and she's there waiting for me with a big big jug of beautiful spring water, and just it was ecstatic, one of those ecstatic moments, right? And then she had this cup of coffee ready, nice piping hot cup of coffee with sweetened jaggery, and it's lovely. As we spoke over these exchanges, she saw me and she saw how fatigued I was. I think I was more nervous than anything else. And then I realized that is exactly the same route that Janaki Amma took to get to Keystone Foundation, where she worked as an Adivasi health worker. She represented her community. She was also the leader, one of the leaders. And she also worked as a reporter for the Adivasi newspaper that was published by Keystone. She made this journey about 2-hour hike, twice a week, and then had to take the bus from the village Pamaram to go to Ooty. This does not include getting to all the other villages. So, yeah, that's my case. Janaki Amma is to me, Janaki Amma represents this force of nature with a healing touch, so comforting. I spent a long time with her, but she didn't reveal much about her healing secrets. I even stayed with her and things, and rightfully the Kurumbas and the healing communities and tend to be more secretive and things. But she did give me some, at the end of it, she did give me some recipes to cure some fevers and colds. And then after so much prodding from my side, one day she just smiled and she said she'll make me a really nice hair oil. But that was that. I haven't got anything out of her, even though we are quite close, even to date. So Janaki Amma said this, and I have done my best to translate it from Tamil. Only those who seek are bestowed with knowledge, because healing works only if one is connected to it deeply. The medicines must be activated with intent. They will not work on their own. This requires the healer to work with intuition and perseverance. So Janaki Amma had learned the art of native medicine from her father, a healer of repute. And in fact, I was told Janaki Amma's father was one of the greatest healers there was in their community. The practice of medicine among the Alukurumbas and ethnobotany, for the matter, was handed down through families, and it was handed down to only those who sought it. And it still was and still is learned entirely by practice on the field. That's how she too learned it, and that's how she's teaching her daughters too. One of her daughters, her niece. This is a little a short film about Janaki Amma. This was made during the time I was shooting around the area, but it was made by Keystone Foundation. I'm just going to play just a couple of minutes. Encapsulates her life, a day in the life of Janaki Amma.
குறும்பர் இனம் சேர்ந்த மக்கள் என்னன்னா, எங்களை சுத்தி காட்டுக்குள்ள இருக்கிற மூலிகை பொருட்களை எடுத்துதான் நாங்க இது பண்ணிட்டு இருக்கோம். எனக்கு பேரு ஜானகி. எனக்கு 6 வயசுல இருந்து மூலிகை சேர்க்கை எங்க பாட்டி, தாத்தா, எங்க அப்பா, அம்மா கிட்ட கத்துக்கிட்டேன். எனது பெற்றோர்கள் பாரம்பரிய மருத்துவராக இருந்தாங்க. அந்த மருத்துவம் எனக்கு கொடுத்த பரிசாக நான் நினைச்சு நான் மருத்துவம் செஞ்சுட்டு வரேன். செடி பேரு சொன்னா அதுல எங்க இதுல பலிக்காது அப்படிங்கிறாங்க. அப்போ அந்த காலத்துல இருந்தே செடி பேர் சொல்லல, செடி தட்டில காமிப்பாங்க. அவங்க மருந்து எடுக்கும்போது நம்ம மரத்தை பார்த்துக்கணும். இது எங்க முன்னோர்கள் கொடுத்த பரிசு. அது நாங்க முறையா பயன்படுத்தணும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். உடம்பு சரியில்லாம சீக்கிரக்காரர்கள் காசு கொடுப்பாங்க சரியாயிட்டானா, அந்த காசு நான் வாங்குறது இல்லை. ஏன்னா அந்த பாரம்பரியான மருந்து நம்ம அடிக்கடி செஞ்சுட்டு இருக்கணுங்கிறதுக்காக செஞ்சுட்டு இருக்கேன். ஆரத்தினோட நீரே ನೆಲಿತೋರೆ ನೆಲು ಮರಳು ದುಕೋನಿ ಉದದು ನೆಲಿತೋರೆ ನೆಲೆ ಮರಳು ದುಕೋನಿ ಉದದು ಆರೇತೆ ನೋಡನಿಗಿರ ಆರೇತೆ ನೋಡನಿಗಿರ ಕುಗೌರು ಗುಬೆ ಬರಿ
She's one of the stars in my book, in the chapter Forest Healer. She's still a star to me, always will be. So all of these walks and hikes also took me to the many Badga hattis. The Badgas are the agrarians and the largest and the most popular, prosperous of the indigenous groups of the Nilgiris. And you could have heard of the Badgas. A lot of what I learned about the Badga culture came from the ballads and again folklore and folk tales, as I mentioned before also, as it was with other communities. It was like that here too. More so with the Badgas because oral literature is one of the foremost and formidable legacies that the Badgas have inherited from their ancestors. And for centuries, these bards and singers and storytellers had, in these remote ranges, rendered stories to epic ballads about the diversity of nature and people in the region. So I was again really enamored by this orature culture of the Badgas and started to seek out these ancient hattis. Hattis are, hatti means a village in Badga language. Started looking for that, looking for these places set in remote valleys and nooks and crannies across the Nilgiris. Under the mentorship of one of the foremost Badga scholar, Reverend Philip Mali, I started to work with some translators to create first-hand translations of the ballads that I thought were of resonance for this project. So of the many, I picked out a few with Reverend Malli, so all of it in the book. And we found a translator who translated it for this purpose. There are many of them that you'll see in the book, but one that really captivated me was this funeral litany, a catalog of 1,300 sins, which is uttered during the death rites, absolving the deceased of all his sins. 1,300 sins that are absolved when somebody dies. This is an ancient rite and still followed. So I'm just going to read out a few excerpts from this. If he estranged his brother, it's a sin. If he altered the contours of a field, it is a sin. If he plucked young plants and threw them under the scorching sun, it is a sin. If he discarded seeds of grain, it is a sin. If he spoke evil of others' domain, it is a sin. If he failed to relieve the fatigued, it is a sin. This is just a little, a few from that big catalog of 1,300. Now, why I am presenting this is because it's incredible in that it's from sabotaging familial bonds to inflicting harm upon the smallest creature. Every manner of wrongdoing is uttered with the same enthusiasm, making this catalog of sins not just an unparalleled rite of passage, absolving the sins of the dead, but also serves as an eloquent mirror inquiring into the deeds of the living. So, yeah, as you can see, all sorts of things that are there in this compendium. So if you, there are a few more in the book, but if at all you get hold of this 1,300, it's quite fascinating. If anybody is interested, you can reach out to me. I have the catalog. Sacred Harvest. So in 2014, yeah, December, I visited the Keystone Foundation in Kotagiri. Keystone Foundation is a grassroots organization that works with the indigenous communities, the Adivasis in the region, on eco-development initiatives. So I met the founder director, Pratim Roy, and it was a first meeting, but he invited me and my partner Rajesh to join them on this to this Irla settlement called Bangla Padigai, where they were going to judge a cooking contest. Now, how could you say no to that? So this cooking contest was in honor of the slow food movement. The slow food movement is a movement that began in Italy, honoring the um, uh, indigenous farming methods, produce, home cooking, and so on, regional cooking, and so on. So Keystone is affiliated with the slow food movement, and yearly they have these various activities that celebrate this movement and encouraging people from different communities to take pride in what they produce, how they produce it, and how they prepare it. So this was essentially the spirit of it. So come hungry, Pratim said, and we landed up, obviously. We went to Bangla Padi. So it's an Irula settlement. The Irulas are hunter-gatherers, like the Kurumbas. Expert small farmers, they cultivate everything from ancient grains to English vegetables. Did you guys know that even potato was not local to the Nilgiris? The British brought it. So English vegetables on their sacred lands. The traditional agricultural methods were naturally designed to use the available land systems, water, soil nutrients efficiently to produce organic crops for both consumption and livelihood at different times of the year. That is Nanjan, one of the senior farmers on the left side, the left photograph. So this is a place we had gone, it's Bangla Padiga again. So every farm I went visiting with Nanjan, you had to go barefoot to all these places, even if it's a hilly hike or whatever, you scale them only barefoot. Yeah. So that is coming to the cooking contest. So this was no easy task, as you would imagine. So singling out a few dishes from this array of freshly prepared, delectable dishes, so perfectly cut, cooked, seasoned, from locally sourced leaves, herbs, shoots, grains, vegetables. This was not an easy task at all. The one thing that made it easy to judge this was that with every kilometer that a contestant traveled outside the village, we could deduct 2 points. Even if he went outside for tomatoes, we could, cut marks. So that's how local it had to be. So in any case, this was one of the most beautiful meals I have ever had in my life. Um, the Irlas are amazing chefs, I must say. Uh, like I said, made to perfection. And that afternoon's farm to table meal to me was not just an exercise in eating locally or organically, but eating consciously while making an effort to learn a little more about the food we eat and where it comes from. Awareness itself can go a long way in supporting indigenous organic farmer and clean small scale farms. It was a big takeaway from that. So, many more stories like this, and plenty more indigenous wisdom, photographs, stories, and so on and so forth to be found in the book. Some videos that are being updated on the Soul of the Nilgiris website also. And so I will conclude the session with this, but I will leave you with this. The stories, knowledge, worldviews of indigenous people answer very important questions about long-term sustenance. Perhaps we all can begin by opening ourselves up to other ways of living. In a way, we are doing that now, aren't we, with this crisis and these setbacks and so on. So opening ourselves up to other ways of living, alternative ways of seeing the world. Anthropologist Wade Davis, who is one of my greatest inspirations through the making of this book, he writes, "This is not, when I say this, I don't mean, as Wade Davis says, that we mimic the ways of the indigenous people, but to recognize that our way of thinking is only one way of thinking, and it emerged from one set of cultural and societal constructs and circumstances. And it is important that, as far as people often ask me, how do we help this cause? How do we make a difference? How do we contribute? I will say start by going beyond patronizing and exoticizing the indigenous communities. This is how they're normally treated. They're not showpieces or anything like that. Just really, really go beyond that, because people from other communities, which is us, have the power to preserve this indigenous culture.
Ramya? Did we lose Ramya? Ramya is still there? Ramya? Let me just check. Let me just call her and then I'll get back. Just 10 seconds, yeah. Okay, she's not picking the call. We'll just, maybe I'll try another number. So in the meantime, if you may have any questions, maybe you can type your questions or you can raise your hands. So we'll try to patch with Ramya in a bit. Oh, okay. Yeah, try to connect. Yeah, try to connect from the phone. Yeah, no issues. No issues. No issues. Good that. Oh, no problem. Okay, no problem. So good. Sure. Okay. So I think she had the whole day power cut. So we just lost her. Hopefully she will just join in a few minutes from the phone mobile connectivity. What we can do is we can have questions ready if there are anything. So the moment she comes in, we'll ask her to answer the questions. Do we have anybody else from Ooty in the room right now? I saw one Bhuvanesh, but I don't know whether that Bhuvanesh is our photographer, Bhuvanesh from Coimbatore, Ooty. Bhuvanesh is the same Bhuvanesh?
Yes, sir.
Same Ooty Bhuvanesh?
Ama, sir. Ama.
If you have anything to share, good to see you, Bhuvanesh. Yeah?
Thank you, sir. எனக்கு என்ன கேட்கறது தெரியல. எனக்கு ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்துச்சு.
கேட்கறது தெரிய வேணாம், சொல்லுங்க.
தெரியல சார். மேபி அவங்க நிறைய இன்னும் எக்ஸ்பிளைன் பண்றதுக்கு நிறைய கண்டென்ட் வச்சிருந்தாங்களான்னு தெரியல.
இல்ல, the book has a lot more stories, but yeah, so she's gone through very little. The book has some 300 plus images and a lot of stories. I've seen the book. We went for the book launch.
Okay, sir.
But we said like it's a 45-minute session and then 15-20 minutes is what we said as the thing. And yeah, that's the thing. So she must be having a lot of chapters actually if you see the book.
ஓகே சார், கண்டிப்பா. நானும் இந்த ஊட்டி நீலகிரி லைப்ரரியில ஒரு தடவை பார்த்தேன்.
பார்த்திருக்கீங்க? ஓ, ஓகே, you've seen it. Okay.
அதர் தென் புக், எனக்கு என்ன கேட்கணும்னு நினைச்சேன்னா, புக்ல கொஞ்சம் இருந்தது. ஸோ அதர் தென் புக் வந்து இன்னும் அவங்க பண்ணிட்டு இருக்காங்கலாம் கேட்கலாம்னு நினைச்சேன்.
Okay, let her join. We'll ask the question.
கண்டிப்பா சார்.
Yeah, wonderful. Good to have you. I think Ramya is just joining. We can even mute her video even if you have to, save her battery, the bandwidth. Okay. Ramya, you're back?
Yeah, I'm back. Can you see me?
Yes.
Me?
We could see you. We could hear you also. If you have any bandwidth issue, then I can stop your video. Then we'll have only voice.
I don't think so.
Okay, so then it's fine.
Yeah, just using my phone to tether.
Wonderful. There's one question from one of the photographers who's also based in Ooty, who has covered a lot of weddings in the community and all of that. So his name is Bhuvanesh. So yeah, so I'm just going to ask his question. Bhuvanesh, can I go ahead and ask, or you want to ask?
Sir, you can ask, sir.
Okay, so I'll ask. So he said he has seen your book also in the library in Ooty, somewhere in the library. So he said, are you continuing to work on this project even after this book, or it's just the book, is his question?
I am continuing in the sense that there's some initiatives that we're working on with the Adivasis. And as I think, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but 100% of the profits on this book are going back to help the communities and channel through the Keystone Foundation. In the process, this includes my involvement also in some of the initiatives. So yes, I'm very much involved in some of the things, some projects that we're working on. So it's an ongoing relationship with the sort of trust you have built and earned. You have to sustain it. So yes.
Okay. There's another question from Shanmuganathan. He was asking, were you able to cover the Heidai festival? I don't know how to pronounce it. The Heidai festival of the Badgas. If you covered, what is your experience? Did we lose you again? In fact, hello. Ramya? Like we lost her again. So she's taken through us, all those names in terms of the names she mentioned: Mutsin, Subramani, Janaki Amma, Nanjan. Very interesting people she was showing. The landscapes, the produce, food, kind of work they do. It is an interesting. Ramya. Sorry, I think. Sorry, go ahead.
I was there at the Hector Festival, but I had to go without any sort of. You can't take a camera or even your phone or anything. I tried to sneak in some pictures, and somebody saw me, and he said the goddess is going to curse me, and just wait and watch. So, so yeah, I was there. 2014, 2015, I was there.
Okay. There's one question from Devi Vishnadhan, who's my wife. I mean, her mic is not working. So we've also met Mutsin at some point of time in 2011 or 12, I think. She's very interesting personality. We went around with her to some of the mundus and all that. So what is happened was, the question is like, some people are mentioning the lot of conversions happening within the community in terms of they're moving into other religion and all that. So you came across any such situation, Ramya? I don't know whether she heard. Is this power issue? Ramya, I will just mute your video. Maybe only voice is also fine. This is today is like unexpected things are happening. We never had this in the last so many days. Is it also because of the rain? I have no idea. Okay, so any other questions you may have, you can keep writing. By the time we'll just patch up with her. Let me just. Ramya, we lost you again. Ramya? Yeah, we lost you again. No, you come back. What I'll do is I will mute your video, so then the bandwidth will not be a problem. So yeah, come. Yeah, okay. So I think she's trying to log in again from the mobile data. There's some issue with mobile data. So all these days we never had something like this. So sorry about this technical snag. Where was we? We were asking about this question. Yeah. So if there are any other questions, maybe you can raise your hands or you type your questions. Then we'll be able to ask Ramya. She's not to be seen. Ramya? So anybody else want to add anything? I mean, if you have anything, you can speak out. You can just unmute your one at a time, not everybody at the same time. If there's anything to be added, till the time she joins, we can have some conversation instead of just keeping it mute.
Evina.
Praveen?
Yes. So, I've come across few bee hunters documentary like North Face doing lost bee hunters in Nepal.
Okay.
All those people wear these protective suits or like a for bee stings, get away from bee stings.
Where you're asking about Ooty or?
Yeah, மற்ற இடத்துல வந்து அவங்க வந்து ஏதாவது சூட்டு போட்டுட்டு இல்ல வந்து வலை மாதிரி போட்டுட்டு பண்ணுவாங்க இல்ல அது பியர் ஷீட் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் திங் பட் இந்த டாக்குமெண்ட்ரியில பார்க்கும்போது அந்த வீடியோல வந்து யாருமே they were just wearing normal clothes.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of images. In fact, you can check this Keystone the foundation's website. They have a beautiful video about the honey collectors. Very interesting video, you can check. So these people go like the normal dress only. The website link and the she also has some more videos in the website, in her book website. You can also check that. Yeah, you can check that. So but these like she was mentioning also in the talk, no, she mentioned no, the bees will not do anything, you just come cross, you have no other option, just move on.
அது எனக்கு புரியவே இல்லை. It definitely stings இல்ல.
No, but those people are used to maybe how to tackle that situation. I think so. And I've not seen it live. I've not hiked up any of these honey collectors earlier. Maybe Bhunesh can add anything more if he has seen it. Bhunesh? Bhunesh, irkingla roomla? Bhunesh? His audio is still there, but I'm not able to hear. So we kind of
மேபி அவங்க ரம்யா மேம் திரும்பி ஆன்லைன் வந்தா கேட்கலாமா? கேக்குறீங்களா?
கேட்கலாம். You can ask again. We'll ask the same question. We're just trying to have a conversation on this. One second, Ramya is trying to call. Hi, Ramya. Hi, baby. Yeah. We'll take the questions and then I'll get back to you on that. Okay. No worries, not to worry. Yeah, okay, so we'll patch it up or we crop it and then we'll do that. Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, yes, please try. Yeah, sure. Sure, Ramya, we'll do. Yeah. Okay, bye. Okay, so I think Ramya is not able to even connect from the mobile phone. It's not working, it seems. So then what we can do is, in fact, I was also suggesting this. We'll take the questions from our side. If there are more questions, please do type in here, and then we will try to ask her and then try to get the answers from her separately. It's very unfortunate that we couldn't have her at this point of time to answer these questions. So any other questions if you may have, you can ask in this, or you may type here, and then we'll move on from there. We will send the questions to her and get the answers. She said she'll try to connect it. In fact, the earlier times also when I was trying to reach out to her, the data was not working. She always calls from the WhatsApp from the network. So it was now the WhatsApp is also not working. So it's like little in a situation that's put into our situation now. So I request there are more questions. I saw one question from Sardi Damodaran. Kurumbas do any paintings on cave during the rituals? Sympathetic magic. Okay, so we'll ask this question. So any other question we have from the team? If you have any question, please type it here or you can ask. Then we'll pass on the questions to Ramya, if at all, if she comes back online again in the course of the event, we'll be able to move on from there. Right, there are one more question from Sanjay. He was asking, is there any learning in terms of the marriages they are conducted? How do they view the social institution of marriage, and how do they see the male-female relationship and the dynamics, all that? So we'll try to ask her these questions. So any other questions? I wish she was there. Right, if I'm not, if there are no more questions, okay, so we can, if there are no more questions, then can we wind up? I mean, right. So, I'm so sorry about this technical snag, but at least we could hear her presentation completely throughout the session, and the videos she showed. Like I was mentioning, the names of people from Mutsing to Subramani to Janaki Amma to the Nanjun, specific to the food, the work, the kind of work they do, is the sustainable engagements they kind of get into, the landscape and the produce. So it's a very interesting book project that she did. They made 2,000 copies of those hand-woven Toda artwork to be put in the spine of the book. It's a very interesting project. So thank you so much again for all the participants to be online, to be part of this session, Thalam Talks. So we will get back to you with more such sessions in the future. So hopefully all of us stay safe, stay healthy, and hopefully the lockdowns open up soon. We get back to our normal work, right? So I thank all the participants and Ramya again for accepting to do this session, though we don't have her in the room right now. So thanks, Ramya, for doing this session for Thalam Talks. Thank you so much for all the participants, right? So we'll end the session here. So I'll make all these questions, I'll note down all these questions, and we'll ask her these questions. So I'll just stop recording and then